Now we can insert the equipment under our special worktop. To do that, we can use insert command from Specifi ribbon, and the command opens electronic catalog. So we can run it. And in this case, we can search for the product we want to insert. We will use always SPC boss library. Instead of using the searching levels, in this case, we can, as we know the code, we can directly search for the item just typing above the code or model or description. The first product we want to insert is in this case, we want to start with the cupboard. Okay, so heated cupboard with a 2-inch door. We can select the item and click Add button at the top to insert. We can zoom in. And now, if I want to insert here, as you can see, we don't have any node at this point. There is a trick, so I can insert using Control or Shift button pressed of the keyboard and right click just to activate the quick OSNAP menu. I can select endpoint and I can use this insertion point. So I can specify this point as insertion point, left click, move at the top for direction and another click. I have inserted the equipment outside, not under the worktop. Now, if I want to move this equipment under my worktop, okay, I can use AutoCAD move command, just selecting the object, my cupboard, and right click, pick a point, base point. It doesn't, you don't need it to specify a point of the cupboard. Okay. You can also take the node if you want, and you can move to the left side of 700 because it's the depth of our worktop, and press enter. In this way, we have inserted the equipment, our cupboard, under the worktop. Now we can continue the insertion. I can come back to electronic catalog, and for example, we can insert a drawer. So I can use the code for the drawer, press enter to search. I select the item, I click add. And now it's easier because we don't need it to insert outside because we already have the node, the reference to the previous equipment. So I can click there and move up and another click for rotation angle. We can continue with inserting, for instance, a table. Okay, so I have the code, I paste it. This is my table. As you can see, the table has some accessories, and I can open the accessory list using the arrow. I can add also the bowl and the pillar tab. In this case, it's possible also to switch and change the bowl and replace it with a similar accessory with another bowl, and the same is for pillar tab. But in this case, I will leave it as they are. I click Add button. I come back to my drawing. So I used this point and move up. And as you can see, it has inserted the table with its bowl and also with a pillar tab. Now, as we have a distance, okay, we don't know the dimension of this piece of worktop, okay, in Specifi, instead of using insert button, you can use insert by distance. Insert by distance permits to retrieve the distance between 2 points. The software asks to pick the first point. So the first point is the node, okay, and then the second point. For second point, as you can see, we don't have the OSNAP, okay, but we can use Shift button, right click, and use endpoint. In this case, it loads electronic catalog, but if you read at the taskbar below, you can see that you have X and Y dimensions. X is set to 0, and instead Y has been set to 700. 700 because we moved. Okay, with the mouse, we took a distance of 700 millimeters. So here below, you have the dimensions, okay, retrieved on screen. In this case, it will help you to identify the best product to find. And in our case, I can, for example, I can insert another cupboard, another drawer, sorry. Okay, so this is the item I want to insert. I resize the columns just to see also the dimensions, or you can scroll. Okay, as you can see, this item has a different dimension because we retrieved 700, but this item is just 400 millimeters. Well, I can change the dimension. Before changing this dimension, I suggest you to go to Specify Main Settings and click here Main Settings, just to check to have activated the scale width, depth, and height options. In this way, as those options have been activated, Specify is able to scale the block in X, Y, or Z axis. So I have activated. I can come back to my electronic catalog, and making a double click inside the width, I can type here the same dimension I retrieved here. So 700. I can click Save Changes now. Okay, so okay, you can repeat if you okay, 700, save changes. As you can see, now it saves the dimension, the new dimension, and it set the product type as special. And the color of special, the default color is red. Now I can select the item and I can click Add button. Clicking Add button, now you have the block. As you can see, the block now is bigger than previous one. I can insert there and set the rotation angle, and the block has been inserted. You can see that its tag number is colored by red because red is the color for the special items. Well, now we can insert also, we can see how to insert an equipment above, over the worktop. And instead of using insert by distance, in this case, we can use insert at height. Insert at height, when you run it, it asks the insertion height to identify here the insertion height. As we know, our worktop height is 900 millimeters. We can type here 900 and press OK button. Specify runs electronic catalog again. And in this case, into the taskbar, you can see the insert at height value has been set to 900. It's the same thing if you run electronic catalog and you specify here the insertion height before inserting the equipment. So now I can insert, for example, maybe a slicer. Okay, so I can search for the product. I repeat, you can use the searching levels if you want. Otherwise, you can, if you know the code, model, or description, you can use it. This is the slicers I want to, the slicer I want to insert. And when I insert now, as here, it has been specified 900 millimeters. Okay, when I click Add button, the software asks for insertion point. So I can insert the slicer over there and with this angle. So my slicer has been inserted in a plan view. If you switch to 3D view, isometric, And you can zoom. We can also apply the shading, visual style, realistic. You can see that the slicer now is over the top. That's the result. Another thing you can see is the top covers the bowl. In Specifi, once you have inserted the top and the sink, as the top with the worktop, the special worktop is a solid, and the bowl retrieved from SP Symbols library are made also by solid, it's possible to subtract the elements each other. In this case, I will use drop-in command. From drafting, I click drop-in, and drop-in asks to select, first of all, the parent element, and after the element you want to remove. In this case, I want to select the bowl. The bowl is a part of a group with a table, with a pillar tab, but in this case, I just have to click. After that, right click and Specifi creates the hole. As you can see, we have our worktop with a bowl. Of course, the worktop now it's cutted. Okay, so I suggest to use drop-in when you are sure that the bowl is in the correct position along the worktop. So we can come back to plan view, and I come back to wireframe and plan view just to continue insertion of other items. And for example, now I can come back to electronic catalog. Please remind when you come back to electronic catalog, please check always the insertion height here below, because if it has been set to a different value than 0, your item, your product, okay, the block will float into the empty space. So I suggest to go there and type 0 just to revert and to set the default insertion height. And now I can search for another cupboard. Okay, I can insert it. Of course, I can insert as it is. I don't need to change anything. I click Add button. Again, as it's difficult to insert over there, I can insert here outside the worktop. So insertion point, and I move to the right for rotation angle. After that, I can select the object, and using move command, I can move it under the worktop, 700 millimeters, the depth of my worktop. This is just for the first equipment. The others, it will be easier. We can insert maybe another drawer. So I can search for the drawer again. And as you can see, the drawer now still have the default dimensions. So when you change the dimension, it's valid only for that product. Specifi doesn't save into its own database the dimension you changed. Okay, so it's when you modify a product, okay, the information you edited are valid only for the current insertion of that product into that drawing. I can click Add, and I insert there with the angle. Again, now we can repeat the same than before. In this case, I can use from Specifi, insert by distance, and this time I can take the distance from this node and the opposite corner. Shift button and point like this. As you can see now, we have two distance, 1,500 in x-axis, okay? And if you take a look at UCS icon, you have the coordinates. So in x, we moved 1,500 to the right side, and we move up of minus 700. You have to take the absolute value. So now we know exactly the dimension of the equipment that we need. And we can take, for example, another cupboard. Okay. And in this case, we can change the dimension. Instead of 1,200, we can specify here 1,500 millimeters and click Save Changes. Again, I repeat. If it doesn't work, you have just to repeat another time, okay, in order to see the new dimension in width column, and the type has been automatically set to special, the product type. I select my product and click Add. And I insert there. In 3D, we can see how it looks like. We can move back to plan view. Yeah. So remove the shading and I click plan view just to insert other elements over the worktop or at wall. And so we can insert, for instance, a portion scale. Okay. And in this case, I can use insert at height, or I can specify directly. I select the item to insert, and here I can type directly the insertion height. I click Add, and I insert over there the as you can see, I can leave it now, the insertion height at 900 millimeters, just to insert other equipment for preparation, for dynamic preparation. And again, also in specify symbols, you can also you can find also some furniture elements. Like this. In this case, I can insert at 1,500 millimeters from floor. Add. And if you want to put there, you can use Shift button pressed or Control and nearest. And you can insert over there. Again, we can continue searching other objects to insert. Like this. And maybe we can add also a cutting board. So we can also search by description. And you have here all the cutting boards it finds. I can select the one from SP Symbols and click Add button. You can insert there. Again, in this case, I can search for a recycled bin. And as you can see now, I set back the insertion height to 0. just to click Add button and insert the recycle bin there. And as you can see, some equipment, some elements don't have a tag because they are just furniture elements. So they don't need to be identified with a tag. Okay, but they will permit us to improve the graphic, the quality of our project and make it more realistic. Okay, at the end, maybe we can insert the last equipment, and you can continue with the insertion of the other item. Can switch to 3D just to see how it looks like. We can apply a realistic visual style with to see our project with the shading applied. And we can also rotate. As you can see, all these items permit to make our drawing more realistic, of course. And here you have all the equipment inserted.